All right, so I haven't had a lot of time to be able to record a video. So today I thought that I would try to get get a couple things done, while I'm in the headspace to do it. So um, here for this editorial, I wanted to talk about the economy. And it's such a broad topic that just, uttering the words is almost a little bit intimidating, because um, it's something that you could write volumes about. I'm reading right now, for the last several months, I've been reading a book um, about the way the economy is structured and about how much it's changed in my lifetime, far before my lifetime. I mean, one thing that's very disturbing is that I've been hanging around here in this world for a while now, and the um, real wages in this country for middle class citizens have not risen in my lifetime. That is a pretty. I mean, this is today. Today here in November, uh, in the year 2018, the United States of America is the most prosperous country in the history of the world. And yet, in my lifetime, uh, wages have gone down. I mean, that is what you would call a conundrum, you know? And this should be, this should be the most paramount issue. Um, it is the issue of our lifetimes, and it's the most singular thing that needs to be addressed. And, it can't fully be addressed because so much else is attached to it. Because if you think about all the other societal problems we have, our inability to move to a clean energy economy, uh, our division with the healthcare system, our lack of affordable housing, um, the fact that our social safety net is kind of antiquated. All of these things, like or even like our environment and park system. The fact that we want to do all this energy production, all this BS, that falls under the broad spectrum of economy. And once you start talking about these things, it's what it will really come down to is that we see is that it's a broken system, and nobody wants to admit that we're operating under a broken system, but that's where we're at. The average person, will tell you like, hey, when we talk about the capitalist system, they're would be happy. They may not know what else they would prefer, but they can tell you that they're not a fan of what we're living under, and and why would they be, for that matter? Um, you know, we have. I mean, anybody that has sat through a high school history class, and that covered they covered modern America up to the year 1950. Can tell you that, like, the stories of the Gilded Age are very memorable. Um, that was an age where you know it seemed like um, an age of hopelessness in a lot of ways. Um, we had these people from the country moving into the city, and you know um, found themselves in a system that was designed to, um, requiring them to give, and that resulted uh, in them being, and taking. It was, a system that was designed for them to pursue a better life, and to not really receive one, to run its place. And we saw where that ended, you know. Um, Things that we know that work have not been implemented. So what we have is this system of kind of faulty capitalism, uh, where there's such a level of distrust, between the interest of capital and the interest of labor, that there's no place for things to meet in the middle, and that is a system that is going to, like this can only uh, reform probably is going to be, um, it's not going to be pretty. Change is going to be ugly in this case, because the people that are, this really uneasy coalition of, these kind of uh, uh, unfettered capitalists, with the with the disenfranchised working white class. I mean, these are people that have nothing in common and don't want the same thing ultimately. So I just don't see that ending well. And then, on the other side, because all of the money, is basically in the hands of the wealthy. The side that could work can't, because they just don't have the levers to pull. So this is something where I think the only way that this really ends is some kind of civil war. I mean, I don't mean to be. Um, I almost hate to use those words, but I mean, hopefully it's a civil war where the violence itself is kept to a minimum. But what I mean is, like, I think that if we go back to the Great Recession and look at what did exist, I think that it's some kind of version of that, where only one, whichever one of these, like the Tea Party was just insane. Don't tax me. Come on, we didn't, the taxes were not the issue, but and then we had, we had the other side, the Occupy people, and I think that they actually did have a more coherent voice than was credited them, and it was really because the complexity, they understood the complexity of the issue, and it was the inability, for it to be well articulated, in the media, and maybe because there was no central spokesperson for something like that. It wasn't a one issue kind of a thing. But what people were saying, is exactly what we're talking about, is that all these broad sectors under the economy, going towards a world that's that we need to have versus the world that we actually have, you know, being stuck in the mud. So those were the people that were, against the dis-ease in the culture, that understood that we need to reform all of our systems. That we actually need to educate our citizens. That needs to be probably after healthcare and the environment, probably like the biggest thing, and building a clean energy economy, that reworking like some kind of fair wages. Reforming our tax system. See, those aren't things that you can articulate in a few sentences. They are big, but that is what's worth occupying for. And so what I do, in this next iteration of the American economy, I see that these two factions, one that knows what's going on and one that has no clue, basically coming back for a rematch, except that this time, the side of the people will win out, because it will just be the only option essentially. So that is that's it. Um, and God, I mean, I'm just trying to think about like what it was that I was wanting to say with that. But anyway, um, you know, one of the things that's going to be on the block are these things that we've come to. Uh, I think why there is such a sense of dis-ease out there is that um, we've always had this belief that the United States is a place that will be a beacon of hope for everyone. That people from the world can come here and they will be accepted, and they will be part of the great American melting pot. Um, and it's as a result of that, like our country will always be youthful. It will always be innovative. It will always be a dynamic place, and I think that like our inability to reform our own system, to be able to have fair wages, to have worker rights, to have you know clean air and water, to have reproducible energy, to have a fair immigration system. Our inability to do these things is what could really upend capitalism, and put us into a situation where it could, we could go through a lot of long years of rebuilding. So, what do you do when this is the situation we find ourselves in? Um, Resist. You know, that's what you do. Just you keep the big picture of um, the kind of this audacity to believe that we can build a country that works for everyone, uh, you know, and that's you know prosperity is our birthright, and if we keep that, um, that eventually the path to it will become more and more direct until it's almost like a beeline. And you know, what if we're in the brink of the midterm elections? What if in 2028 we have a whole new system? Wouldn't it be worth the sacrifice? All right, food for thought.